I'm so excited to be here with you all tonight. My name's Christie Yee, and I'm the Practice Management and Implementation Specialist for Euclid Vision Group. I want to welcome everybody to the second installment of our practice management series. We're going to cover, hands down, the most requested topic, which is how do I get more patients for my myopia management program? And I am so honored to be joined by my good friend, Dr. Rob Gerowitz. Dr. Rob is like one of the most successful orthokeratologists in the nation. He has decades of experience, not only as a provider, but also as an educator. And so we're really just excited to hear all of his secrets. He is a fellow of the AAOMC and one of the charter members, and he's also the founder of Mission Myopia Control. So in the same fashion of sharing and just being willing to share his experiences with everyone, he's agreed to spill all of his secrets. He's going to share all of his secrets to success and all of the best practices he's learned over his decades of experience. Now, before I turn it over to Dr. Gerowitz, I do want to go over just a couple of housekeeping things. We are going to take questions throughout this webinar, and we have the Q&A box. If we don't get to them during the presentation itself, we will get to them at the end of the presentation. There are no silly questions. We want to help you. So this is your opportunity to ask like an expert, Dr. Gerowitz, like one-on-one. You are anonymous. So please, please, please put those in the Q&A box. Dr. Rob and I also offer one-on-one peer support. You can schedule with us for whenever it's convenient for you using our Calendly links. And we have those links posted in the chat box. And kind of the last thing, if you are not actively a Euclid customer, we would love to have you be one. And so if you get certified and open an account before the end of June, you will get your first pair of warranted lenses for free. All right, so without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Dr. Rob.
Well, thank you very much, Christy. I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you for tuning in and also to thank Euclid for asking me to speak. It's my hope that this talk will solidify new information for you and get you thinking about Ortho-K and myopia management in ways that are applicable to your practice. Now, you're going to notice that throughout this talk, I'm not going to refer to the device we use for Ortho-K as a lens, a retainer, or anything other than a mold. Now, why is that? Well, first of all, each night we reshape or remold our patients' corneas. Secondly, there will always be entities that will try to get into our programs, our practices, and our pockets. And by doing that, they're trying to make these molds a commodity. Now, I think that by defining what we're doing as a vision program with therapeutic benefits, we are taking the steps necessary to keep this treatment out of outsiders' greedy hands. As a matter of fact, in order to maintain control of this as a specialty, I've stopped charging for molds altogether. I charge one flat fee for the entire program as a package. It's my goal to get all of you to think the same way, and we can keep Ortho-K molds from going the way of soft contact lenses. Now, this is a comment I hear all the time from parents, and what I say to that is, remember the old rotary dial phones? Well, you probably had one, and now you most certainly have a smartphone. You can make phone calls on both types of telephones, but that's where the similarity ends. As a matter of fact, the Ortho-K molds that I use on children and adults as well are the most sophisticated optical device I have in my practice. They're made to exact specifications and in units down to millionths of a meter. So I think that makes it a very different type of product or a different type of design than just the old grandma's hard lens, you know? Christy, you have some comments about this as well?
Yeah, I do. First of all, I want to say that I love the fact that you don't call them contact lenses. I myself have called them night lenses or night retainers for years, for some different reasons. First of all, like if you walk into a room and say, "Great news, Johnny is a great candidate for a hard contact lens called orthokeratology." As soon as you introduce the concept of a hard lens to a parent, there's some inherent biases that are going to come into that parent's mind. The word hard, just in general, does not bring warm, fuzzy feelings to one's mind when you initially introduce that concept. And so by using the words like night lens or night retainer, it's introducing a concept that they've never heard of, and yet it conveys a lot of information. By using a mold or retainer, the parents inherently know that we're molding and shaping things. We just didn't necessarily have to come out and use, kind of that negative descriptor word. So we're avoiding a lot of those biases that might be initially introduced while introducing this modality to a parent for the first time. The other thing that I really like about this particular process that you have is it's differentiating it from a contact lens, right? So contact lenses, most parents have some experience with a lens, be it a hard lens or a soft lens. And they've probably heard of gas permeable lenses or hard lenses in the past. And so they have like a lot of preconceived ideas that kind of go with that, and maybe even regarding its value. When I think of a soft lens, I think of something very disposable, very generic, very low value. And so by differentiating this and treating it not like a contact lens, I'm not up against some of those barriers that might also exist. So for example, like if I go into a room and I'm initially introducing an orthokeratology lens, I position it as a device that we're going to insert into the child's eye right before they go to bed. And the magic happens while they're sleeping. And when they wake up, they take the device out and, magically they can see without their daytime correction that they've been wearing. And bonus, we have now addressed the progressive myopia. We're hopefully slowing down that axial length elongation. And so it's just positioning it a little bit differently. And it places the value more on the therapeutic benefits versus focusing so much on a contact lens, which I think is really where we sometimes lose our parents, is that they don't understand that a contact lens could also be providing that therapy.
Excellent. Well, there's going to come a time when you have a new patient in your chair whose myopia has progressed in a short while. And then you'll start explaining myopia management and Ortho-K, and everything that you say is 100% correct. And the parent is nodding along in agreement. And then you'll say, okay, let's get this party started. And no matter what else you say or do, all that parent wants is for their child to be wearing glasses. Okay, it's their kid. You can't force a treatment on them, but you can insist on not being a part of glasses-induced progressive myopia in the future. So I'll actually tell this parent, great, I'll fit your child in glasses this year, but next year, if you want me to be their eye doctor, I'm not going to use anything that isn't a myopia management device. I think the easiest person to sell is the one you've already sold to, and people will invest in these treatments if they solve the problem they came in with and you give them a reason to do it. So above all, never ever try to judge what your patient can afford in terms of this program. Christie, what did you want to talk about?
Yeah, so when it comes to introducing fees for myopia management, I think this is one of the areas that optometrists really struggle with because it's not cheap, right? And so one of the things that I try to position the actual structure is like, think about how you would, like if you had a patient that was had a suspicious optic nerve, for example, and you were concerned about glaucoma. You wouldn't be hesitant to offer a doctor, or you wouldn't be hesitant to offer your patient a Humphrey visual field and an OCT to, really delineate what the problem was and to take those next steps. And so I think one of the things that really for us was a mindset switch was we started treating it like we would any other health condition in our office. And so for us, we position it as just like any other medical condition. The patient comes in for the routine eye exam and we identify the problem. We introduce the concept of myopia management and keep it very focused on the eye health aspects of it. So we clearly identify our concerns. And then from there, we say something to the effect of, so these are what the next steps look like. We'd like to bring you back for a consultation. We're going to take some specialized scans of your child's eye. And then from there, once we have those results, we can discuss what those next steps look like. So we treat it more of like a medical model versus trying to just sell expensive contacts. And once you have the mindset that this is just like any other eye condition that you treat in office, it becomes much easier to get behind the price point. And it doesn't feel as awkward, I think. You don't have to be afraid to offer this to your patients. And it doesn't even feel like selling to me. I just feel like I'm doing what's in the patient's best interest.
Exactly. Miracles don't come cheap. All right. Well, there are plenty of good candidates out there. You're going to even encounter patients who've been told by other eye doctors that they cannot get this treatment. And I was once having some liquid refreshment with my son, who's a chiropractor, a rabbi who has studied spiritual healing. And I got to say, this isn't a chiropractor, rabbi, and optometrist walk into a bar joke. As a matter of fact, as the two of them were talking, I was getting a little bit depressed about how mechanical optometry has gotten and how little there is in the way of a spiritual basis for our profession. And I think it ultimately comes back to caring enough about that patient that that's where Ortho-K comes in. And you need to be, willing to get out of your comfort zone and ultimately take on more challenging cases and do for that child what the naysayers are saying can't be done. Remember, you're the only one who's going to get in the way of that child's progressive myopia. And in so doing, change how they perceive the world and themselves. And to me, that sounds pretty spiritual in and of itself. So the moral of the story is to care enough about the patient to go that extra mile for them. And this is my prediction that within 10 years, myopia management will be the standard of care in our profession.
Yeah. So, I think this is a really great opportunity, like for the group that's listening, to really think about, like what is your personal philosophies around myopia management, how you're going to support that in your office, and also even with your team and how your team is supporting those personal philosophies. So that way, you're all working together as one cohesive unit. I talked about this with Dr. Kading during one of my first webinar series, and we talked about outlining kind of a mission statement. And I think once you do that, like the rest of your business goals and stuff kind of fall into place. So for everybody listening, if you haven't done that already, I strongly suggest just taking even just a couple minutes to really think about, what myopia management means to you and, what that's going to look like for the future of your practice.
Exactly. Well, shouting from the hilltops goes beyond pamphlets in your office. I mean, I think these are helpful, but maybe think about a video that's on a big screen monitor in your reception room and putting that video also on iPads and have the patients watch these. And once you get Euclid certified, print it up and frame that certification. So while most of us also have websites, these are things that you want to promote on your website. But most of these are general practice information spots that explain anything and everything about what your office is about. Online researchers really don't want to go through information about progressives and eyeglass frames just to learn about what you can do for their child. And I think that by having a site that's mostly dedicated to myopia management and Ortho-K in particular, it gets the information into the patient's hands easier and quicker, and it sets you up as an expert in the field. We know that patients are always interested in the frame we have on, the progressive we wear, the drops we use, that sort of thing. And so they will try Ortho-K if you are doing it yourself. Often my telling a patient that I've been an Ortho-K patient myself for over 25 years is enough to get them to start with themselves or their child. And so I think now is a good time to start the process of having yourself fit in Ortho-K molds. And don't forget your staff because they will shout from the hilltops too.
Yep.
Now,
100%.
there are going to be patients who you talk to about this treatment, and they're going to look at you like you are speaking Martian. They have just not ever heard about it from anyone ever. And so one of the strongest marketing tools I have is my patient info pack. And I've kept it fairly simple because I actually want the patient to read through it and not just slid under the front seat of their car. So our booklet has information about me, the program, some success stories, and information about progressive myopia. And I think this, along with a link to my YouTube channel, is enough to push into their hands at one time. We also include a little bribe, a little tiny gift to get them to go through it all. And then I ask them to pass that along to someone they might know who might be interested in the program for their children. Additionally, in my reception room and in my exam room, I have a booklet that has all this information plus extra success stories that I've had patients write for me over the years. Now, by having a patient wall of fame that has framed photos and success stories, you probably are not ever going to have to answer the question of, hey, doc, how many of these have you done? I especially like to get action shots of kids doing sports or receiving awards. And you can post on your Facebook page or your Instagram page a molder of the month. And so that is another way to get people looking at this in terms of other patients. I think there's nothing like 10 minutes of pre-testing to give you a captive audience. So we've set up a 3-minute video that I have every patient watch every year. Well, during this time, if they haven't indicated that they're interested in an alternative method to correct their vision, they still watch the video. Oh, that's unusual. Why is that? Well, even if their even if their auto-refraction is Plano or -12, or even if they can see Made in USA on the bottom of my chart, even if they have a glass eye, they're going to watch this video because even if they're not a candidate or not interested, they may know someone who is, and that's how you get the word out. And so if you take nothing from this talk tonight, it's this: get the word out. An instructor of mine once said, if you can do it, you can call yourself it. So show your patients that you have a specialty in orthokeratology by calling yourself an orthokeratologist. Put that title on all your paperwork, your letterhead, everything. And you'll be amazed because sometimes you're going to hand your card to somebody and they're going to look at it and invariably they're going to ask, hey, what is an orthokeratologist? And that just opens the door for you to give them your 3-minute elevator speech. Candy was developed as a study by Dr. Peter Wilcox and the late David Bartels, and then transformed into a terrific marketing program. This poster is in our office, and a day doesn't go by that a parent or child doesn't ask, why is candy good for my eyes? And this is just another way of explaining that you are a person that controls astigmatism and nearsightedness in developing youth. Now, during the course of the I&R visit and at follow-up checks, your staff will be asked new questions about care and handling, comfort, wearing time, dislocated molds, and follow-up visits. And I think it's important that your staff is a direct extension of you. So the wall in our contact lens training room has these certificates posted and framed so parents and patients can see that my staff have undergone additional training to be able to help them with this specialty. We want them to be aware that it's a therapeutic program and not just a pair of lenses, and my staff are there to help them. Now, I've stolen a lot of ideas, but this one's mine. We print up the day one topos. We write down the binocular acuities and we staple a business card to it. And then we ask the parent to bring this home and put it on their refrigerator so that when their friends are over, they can explain what their child is doing and tell them about me and the program. And I hope that they'll tear the card off and give it to their friend as well. And I let the parents know that we reward referrals. Christy, what do you think about this?
Yeah, so before I ask the group a question, I just want to go back. So 3 times in the lecture tonight, you have mentioned asking for a referral. I think this is so important to be constantly asking, like, take this home if you know anybody that could benefit from this. Don't be shy of asking for those referrals. It's how we get our name out. It's how we spread the word about orthokeratology. It is new. It is very exciting. And honestly, like when I'm explaining it to most parents for their child, most parents will ask me like, whoa, that's so cool. Can adults do it too? So again, it's a very exciting modality. So don't be afraid to ask for those referrals. The other thing that I wanted to say I thought was so awesome in your lecture was that you put together that packet to take home when you're doing that initial consultation. And I think that's so important. I'm kind of a new parent. My husband and I are in the late stage process of adopting two children. And so we're kind of new at all of this. But um, one of the things that I've learned is that oftentimes when we have medical appointments, it's either me or my husband that's attending those appointments. It's rarely ever both of us at the same time. And so those packets of information that you're putting together are so phenomenal at facilitating the conversations that need to happen with the partner or spouse that wasn't actually there at the exam that day, because those conversations oftentimes need to happen. And so, arming mom to go home and explain to their husband that Dr. Gerowitz just saw Johnny and, he's concerned about his vision and he gave us this information to look at, I think is a really important step to getting that overall commitment and getting them to get on a program. So I wanted to call those out because I think they're phenomenal things that you're doing. And again, make sure you're asking for those referrals. So my question for the group is really just, like what are you doing to get the word out? Like what types of things are you actively engaging in to spread the word that your practice is doing orthokeratology? And, just think about maybe different ways that you guys could get out of your own comfort zone, like Dr. Rob said, to spread the word.
Exactly. All right. Well, shifting gears a little bit, I'm going to tell you the trifecta plus one for external marketing. The first thing is service clubs. Rotary clubs, Lions clubs are always looking for a speaker. And then there's religious groups that you may be, attached to or know about. And I'll tell you, these church and synagogues groups have moms groups and they have dads groups, and they might be interested in hearing about their children's vision problems. And a cash donation doesn't hurt. And then there's the local business organizations like Chamber of Commerce and networking groups. And these can be a great source, especially if you join. And don't forget your local public library as well. They typically are looking for speakers. Now, in-office seminars have proven to be one of the most successful events to promote Ortho-K. Interested parents get to come and check you out and hear about Ortho-K at the same time. And the value of this is that sometimes they're going to hear questions from other people attending that they might not have thought about themselves. So in addition to sending out press releases, we also mine our database for existing Ortho-K patients and ask them if they can bring somebody to our event and introduce them like they were introduced to Ortho-K. To all our parents, to all our patients, we send out a newsletter with information about the event, and we put it on our website as well. If you have an in-office message board, post it on that. And don't forget that trifecta that we just talked about to promote to. And finally, on our in-office printer, we'll print up really just small invites to hand to patients that are coming in for pickups or for exams. And, ask them to pass that along to someone they might know who might be interested in the program. And so some patients will actually feel an obligation to say, yeah, I'll for sure do that. And then they actually will. I think this is a story as old as time. People will go where the food is. And sometimes I'll approach a local restaurant to supply appetizers in exchange for us promoting them as the sponsor for the event. And by doing so, we'll have their product there, we'll have their menus there, we'll talk up this local restaurant. And then I'll actually bring these little invites to leave by their hostess stand or their cash register. So I'm involving their customers in getting the word out as well. During the seminar, I'll do individual consults, and these can take up to about 30 minutes. And in order to keep my guests engaged while I'm doing individual consults, sometimes we'll invite a local hair salon to send people in and do hair and nail and skin consults. If you know a local massage therapist, have them come in and do chair massage. And we'll ask these other businesses to send out announcements and put our invites for for their customer base because we want to involve them in the process of getting the word out. And if you know somebody who's artistic, face painting and balloon animals, this is a great way to keep the kids at bay while they're waiting. Now, as far as picking a day and time to do these seminars in your office, I'm going to tell you Mondays and Fridays are the absolute worst, and don't pick a week that has a major holiday in it. During the weekdays, I like to start these at about 5:30, so people are coming to my office directly from work and not going home and getting sleepy first. And on Saturdays, if we do them, typically about 10 a.m. in the morning. If a candidate attends a seminar and goes on to the program, you can offer them $100 for showing up and being part of that group. Now, on the day of the seminar, it's all about you. Your guests came to check out you and the Ortho-K. So crow about your education, crow about your experience, crow about your involvement in the academy. No matter what other diversions I plan for the day, I know that I'm prepared and my staff are prepared to answer absolutely every question that a person attending may have about Ortho-K and myopia management. And this includes fees. We stress that this is not a pair of lenses, but a therapy treatment. And I'll tell interested parents and their kids that I absolutely will not stop working on their child until we have safely achieved their goals. Ortho-K consultations are really the lifeblood of our program, and whether they coincide with one of our in-office seminars or if they're done on an individual basis, we spend about 30 no-charge minutes with each candidate. During the consultation, we'll do autolensometry with their current glasses and do a topography as well. At this time, we'll have them watch that 3-minute video to get reintroduced to the concept. And then when the patient comes back to see me as a candidate, I'll do a limited case history to check for general health problems, allergies, dry eye, and problems with their current glasses or contact lenses. I perform unaided and best corrected acuities, and then I'll evaluate their Ks and their topographies. I like to get a snapshot of their ongoing situation, such as sports-related vision issues, soft contact lens related dry eye, or their concern about their child's progressive myopia. I try to elicit how these problems affect them and how they think Ortho-K may help them. These are need-based inquiries because, as I've said, people will invest in something that has a clear-cut benefit or solution to their problem. Christie, what do you want to ask?
So I'm gonna go off script here. So for the group, you just shared some really amazing ideas, and I'm really in love with like the networking business to business. And so for the group that's listening, maybe start to think about some unique ways that you could network either peer to peer with other professionals that are maybe not offering myopia management services, or like you suggested, maybe even businesses completely unrelated to optometry, how you all can work together to achieve a common goal. I love it. So start thinking about how you're going to network.
Thank you. Well, we all use social media, at least I think we do. And I think an ideal social media marketing campaign should have general information about Ortho-K and myopia management, but also it should have personal information about you and your staff, because it makes your office someplace that's personal for that patient. And really, patients like to know what we've been up to. So they'll also respond when they're seeing these things if they have testimonials and success stories from people that have been getting good results from their Ortho-K and myopia management programs. And so posting these written or video success stories is really important. And it does take a little extra time, but it's really mission critical to get people to think about it. Because it's one thing if we say it's awesome, it's another thing if someone else says it's awesome. Yeah. All right, so remember that trifecta plus one. This is it. As your patients are sitting together in the exam room and you're working with their child, are they speaking to each other in a foreign language? Well, be bold. Ask them if their children go to a foreign language or cultural school. ask to be put in touch with that school's director, and then contact that director and offer to come in and talk to parents while the kids are in class. As most of these programs are privately funded, we offer a small cash donation for the room rental. And then I'll ask the school to send out announcements to their database with the date and time that I'm going to come in and speak. We produced a big banner that sits outside the classroom. So if people are walking by, they may get interested in stopping in. And I always have a sign-in sheet so that when people come in, we can get contact information and send them more information after the fact. And then again, be prepared to answer any and all questions that they may have, except for the one about fees, because that's kind of the one that I wait until the consultation is over before we start talking about fees. Christie, I think you had a question or something you wanted to comment on.
Not so much necessarily on fees. I just know that when I'm doing consultations and we talk about getting into the schools, a lot of the doctors that I talk to during consultation want to know like how you initially set up that relationship. And I think you kind of covered a lot of that where you were reaching out to the director. So that was my biggest question there.
Yeah, and a lot of times that starts with the parent. So it's
Yeah.
just saying, where does your child go to the school? And do you think you could put me in touch with the director? Because a parent whose child's undergoing the treatment is a great it's a testimonial that they give to the director of the school to have you come in.
Yeah. Now, would you say of, I mean, all of the marketing efforts that you've done have obviously a time investment on your part. Do you think that going to the schools has probably been one of the biggest like returns on your time investment that you've had?
Given the amount that we charge for Ortho-K, and this is something people don't realize, it's ongoing continuing annuity and maintenance programs. A couple of hours of my time is well worth it. If I get just one patient
Yeah.
from that group, it is more than paid for my efforts. So absolutely. All right. Now, getting in touch with local pediatricians can really boost your street cred, but it's so much easier said than done. So if you have young children that are seeing the pediatrician, ask that office manager if you can bring in lunch and do a short presentation on Ortho-K and myopia management. Maybe to pave the way before you make this request, bring in flowers or cookies to the entire staff and just say, you want to thank them for the great service they've been giving your children. And if you want the doctors to attend, then having a nice deli tray or a nice lunch is critical as well. If you don't have kids, your kids are older, try to get a few minutes with the office manager's time anyways, and just, say, look, you want to bring in, some cookies or a little food bribe and just get a few minutes of their time. Christy, what do you have to
Yeah.
say about this?
Yeah, I have a lot actually. So this was really it was a happy accident on my part. It was really born out of professional courtesy. I come from a hospital-based setting where we have multiple disciplines all kind of in the same area. So my workstation was right next to the peds workstation, and one of our pediatric physicians kind of tapped me on the shoulder, and she's like, "Can you explain this?" And I was like, sure, what do you need? And she's like, okay, so I have a kid that I'm seeing for a well child visit. He was blind as a bat the last time I saw him. He says he's not wearing contacts. Mom was like insistent there's no lenses in his eye. But he's seeing well, like what gives? They started describing something that he's doing at night, and I didn't understand any of it. And I was like, sure, what's the MR? Like, let me look it up. And so I look up the patient and I was like, oh, yeah, that's my bad. Like, I probably should have sent you a note. We've initiated something called orthokeratology on this child, and it's a device he puts in the evening before he goes to bed, and we're gently reshaping his corneal epithelial cells. When he wakes up in the morning, the device comes out, his vision is corrected, and we're also slowing down his myopic progression. So it's providing some, therapeutic benefits to his actual retina. And she's like, I'm sorry. She's like, I've never heard of this. And so we had like a really great 30-minute dialogue, and just explaining the benefits of orthokeratology to her and myopia management in general. And so I was like, you know what, going forward, I'll make certain I send you a note anytime we have one of these patients. So that way, when you're doing your well child visits, these kids aren't going to come in wearing their glasses for their vision screenings. And so I started sending all of the pediatric providers that, the kids had just a note saying, hey, we were doing this. And then I just started doing it universally for even kids outside of our healthcare system. And like it was one of those things where, all of a sudden I had kids coming in from outside of my healthcare system for myopia management. And I was like, where did you come from? Like I was confused at first. And then I found out that one of the pediatric providers that I had been sending essentially like a managed care letter to was referring their patients that they knew were myopic directly to me because they were really excited about myopia management and just wanted what was best for their patients. And so then I started making mine a little more sophisticated, where I included, an Ortho-K brochure that just kind of explains the benefits of myopia management, and a business card of mine. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out or give it out. I'm not afraid to ask for that referral either. And so it became a thing. And eventually I had three independent pediatric offices referring their patients directly to my healthcare system just because they wanted what was best for their kids with the myopia management. And so one of the things I guess to take away is it takes like 3 seconds to craft a letter that you can send to a pediatrician. You just save it on your desktop and then just change the patient's name. We have a mutual patient that we see. I've initiated myopia management. Here are the goals for this treatment. If the child was wearing glasses at their last, visit, they're not going to be going forward. Their visual acuity should still be 20, if they're saying 20/20, great, put that down. And then, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. And it's just a really great way to introduce the concepts of myopia management to our pediatricians. It was a real non-aggressive way to get my information in their hands. And again, the time investment is minimal and the reward was huge. So I strongly recommend that if you're not actively doing that, everybody should start doing that. It's a great way to get the word out, to educate, and hopefully we get a stream of patients back.
Excellent. Well, I think if you don't know where you're going, if you don't, how do you know where you're going if you don't know where you've been? And it really doesn't matter what method you use to keep track of your myopia management patients, but it's critical that you do. These are not your regular come every 26.4 month patients who just broke their glasses and now have vision benefits that they can use. These are highly motivated patients and parents who want to keep up with their children's current refractive status and axial lengths. They want to know that their eyes are staying healthy, and they're always interested in if there's anything new in this field. So whether you use Excel, numbers, a simple word table, good old paper and pencil, it doesn't matter. Just don't let these patients fall through the cracks. So this is a very simple MS Word table that I've developed. I've listed the patient name, when they came in for their appointment, and when they started their program, the date of their last appointment, the type of treatment they're receiving, and when I want them to return, and how they originally came to find me. So let's first look at item A, and that's under Susie Smith. So I'll give you a second to find that. And this space has been left blank because Susie never started her program after receiving a consult. Perhaps there was a question unanswered or some other concern, but either way, this would indicate an opportunity to recontact them again and hash it out. Now in the third row, under Betty Jones, let's look at item B. It's also blank. I use this space as a placeholder to indicate that she had come in for a maintenance program, but not yet picked up her new set of molds. And so this is somebody that we want to get in touch with and say, hey, it's time to start with your new set of molds. Sometimes these patients try to stretch out their ear and you have to stay on top of it. Lastly, item C, which is under Jim Shu. It shows that he came in on April 15th and was supposed to return the next day, but he never did. And so we want to have good continuity of care, and he should be contacted. Who keeps track of these updates? Well, in my office, it's me, because it's just too important. However you assign this duty, again, doesn't matter, but choose wisely because you want it kept up. Lastly, look at the source, how these people started your program. And if you see that there's a ongoing trend for some sort of external or internal marketing that yields great results, the worst thing you can do is stop doing that. You just want to keep doing that item or items until it stops yielding results, and then find a new way to put it on its ear and start it up again. But don't stop doing something that's working. Well, according to the Associated Press, it's recently come to light that a select set of prisoners at Guantanamo Bay were forced to spend every waking hour in a semi-darkened cell that was no more than 10 feet by 10 feet in size. And furthermore, it was noted that they were only allowed to repeat one sentence over and over again. Optometry can be so much more than this, and I want you to be out there discovering what it can be for you. Now, let's say that you need help getting started. You're not sure your patients will accept Ortho-K. You feel like your program is missing some key ingredient. Then I invite you to go to calendly.com/DocRobG and set yourself up with a 30-minute consult with yours truly on either Tuesday mornings or Wednesday afternoons. I'm sorry, Wednesday evenings. All right, now this is the time for my favorite part of the lecture. It's AMA, Ask Me Anything.
Yeah, so we have a few questions. We have a person who would like to know if you could share more details of your booklet samples. So when you're handing out that information to parents, can you be any more detailed with the contents of that packet?
So the first thing it does is it explains what we're doing in myopia management, particularly Ortho-K. My practice is very Ortho-K centered, and right now we're managing over 500 active Ortho-K patients. And so, it describes in writing what I tend to say to every parent verbally. And if you've ever been in that situation where you're saying the same thing over and over again, getting that in written form is not too difficult. And then we'll have success stories sprinkled throughout it. I'll talk about getting your kids outside. I'll have a page on what atropine therapy is all about, a page on soft lens myopia control is all about. I'll talk a bit about me, and we'll have other Q&A type things that people have asked me about it year after year. So as you do more and more of these, you're going to find the same questions come up each time. So I hope
Yeah.
that helps.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, so Euclid does have resources as well. We do have informational brochures that are available in English, Spanish, and Chinese. And then we have also developed it's kind of a one pager. I personally put most of it together when I was still at my other clinic. It was a tool for me to hand to the parents after the introduction of the concept of myopia management after the routine eye exam. So if you're just getting started out and you don't have some of that and you'd like a template, go ahead, and if you want to schedule with me, I'm happy to get some of those resources over to you. Next question is what?
Before that,
Oh, go ahead.
Christie is the implementation head of Euclid. So, listening to one of these webinars is great, but actually getting it started is the hard part. And so she'll help you roll that rock up the hill, and it
Yeah,
will
we
crest it.
we have a lot of stuff to help you get started. So if you're not actively doing myopia management, it can be intimidating because you have to come up with like all of the forms, like informed consent, wearing contracts, like contact lens instructions. So we have quite a few resources that are available. So don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to help you get started. So the next question is, what has been your biggest marketing return on investment? So of all of the different efforts, the things that you do, what do you think has been the most successful in your practice?
Speaking of Chinese schools,
Okay.
without a doubt.
And the next question is, do you go straight to a pediatrician's office or do you call to ask for the doctor or office manager? So for this one, I have actually been collecting the pediatrician's information during the intake form. So when they come in to see me for the first time, I'm just asking like, who's your child's primary care provider? And then if they know the office information, great. If they don't, usually I can find it with a quick Google search. It takes me like 3 seconds to get the address. Um, anything that you would add to that, Dr. Rob?
Well, you know how it is when the sales rep comes into your office without an
Yeah,
appointment unannounced. It's
yeah,
like, oh God, all right, I gotta give them 2 minutes of my day. You know, you don't want to start the meeting off that way.
yeah. Agreed. I think the managed care letters for me, again, it was born out of professional courtesy. It was never meant to be a marketing effort, but it was really a non-aggressive way to get my information in front of those pediatricians. Because again, it had their patient's information on it. It was related to a patient that they cared for. So I think it was relatable in a way that was very non-aggressive and allowed that transfer of information. And I didn't have to like try to track somebody down and hang out in a lobby where I didn't have an appointment. So again, to your point, I think that it's a better way to start the relationship.
Mhm.
Um, okay, so I'm gonna switch boxes here. If you charge a treatment fee instead of the Ortho-K itself, what happens when they accidentally break a lens?
All right, well, that's where I do charge for replacement molds. In my agreement, it has, so I have a two-part agreement. One is a informed consent, and the other is a patient care agreement. These are each one page long. And it says what my responsibilities are to the patient, what their responsibilities are to us. And so it does list out the cost of the program and the cost of replacement molds.
And I really think like whatever program you choose to go, like some offices will offer it's a slightly higher fee for myopia management, but then it's like all inclusive and it has like a breakage or lost lens policy. I don't think there's a right or wrong way to set that up, but to your point, we clearly spell that out in the essentially the wearing contract. So that way everybody knows whose responsibility is what, and everybody is informed before we start the treatment.
And the other thing I've done, I list on the initial agreement that the molds are complimentary and that they're paying for service. So that kind of takes away that commodity sense of it. And we want them to not fear having to call us and say they broke one or lost one. So during the first year, I'll drop what I'm doing and get on the phone and order up a replacement mold and have it overnighted once it's produced. And so that's a slightly higher figure because it has the fact that I'm stopping my life and I'm helping them, but more importantly, that we're overnight shipping it. Then after the first year, in theory, they have their old molds from their previous year to fall back on for emergencies. And so then I'll just order it as I'm ordering my weekly, litany of mold orders. And so it'll come in with that, but not specially ordered for that patient. And that's at a slightly lower fee.
What do you do when you have a patient that will not respond to messages, phone calls, or emails when they need to return for their follow-up appointment after dispensing the Ortho-K lenses?
I will send them a registered letter and I will come out and say, please stop wearing your molds immediately. And we can have you come in for an appointment and we can discuss what is going on. But if you've chosen not to come back in, we don't want you to wear the molds until I see you.
Yeah,
So
and
I'm not shy about that.
I would just say that like my wearing agreement is for the most part it's I don't know if non-confrontational is the way to put it, but I do have in there that failure to attend all of the necessary follow-up appointments could yield to discontinuation of the treatment. And we don't include refunds for that. So and I'm pretty upfront with the parents about that especially as we're establishing where it's really important for the child's eye health and just the safety of the lens wear that all of these follow-up appointments as we're getting established are followed and adhered to. And one of the things that I found lent me the greatest success is that when I have a patient that has agreed to start a treatment program with me, I pre-book the INR dispense appointment. So once we have that agreement, 2 weeks from then will be their INR dispense appointment. And then I pre-book that first morning follow-up in 1 to 2 weeks, and then the first month follow-up. And so I just pre-schedule all of those so they're on the book, they're already scheduled, everybody's agreed to those dates and times. I find that if I pre-schedule before they leave the office, I have greater chance of success in getting them back. So hopefully that helps.
Great point, Christy. I mean, you're going to find out that these kids are busier than any group of patients you've ever found. And you just want to have them on your books. We pre-appoint our Ortho-K patients routinely, including for their yearlies. So we'll pre-appoint, 6 months in advance. The other thing that we'll tell them is that because they're going to have these outliers that are going to try and stretch their programs out, to multiple years. And we'll tell them that if that's the case, that they come in, if they have not been doing their follow-up, that it is likely they're going to get charged more for their
And like a new
maintenance
fit.
program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Because you don't know what
100%.
you're going to encounter.
Exactly. And I find that those that have stretched it out, like the lenses eventually are going to change shape, right? And so most of us don't have radioscopes. We don't have the ability to see if there's lens warpage. And so it becomes really difficult to determine, like we've had vision changes. Is this a natural vision change? Or is this like a lens induced change? And so you're going to have more chair time, and like the options really are to reorder the last known lens, have the patient wear it for a couple of weeks, and then just see how things shake out, in which case you might incur additional lab fees just because you're having to exchange lenses. Or like you wash the patient out and start over. And neither one of those situations are ideal. So I'm pretty upfront that anything over 15 months, if I haven't seen you in the office in 15 months, we're starting over. We're going to treat you like a new patient, and there's higher fees. So again, a really great point, because nobody wants to be in that position. It's good. It's not good for the office. It's not good for the patient.
Well, you raised up two interesting points that I actually talked about at the last webinar. The
Yeah,
first thing is that radioscopes are as important as a topographer in
they
doing
really are.
ortho-K. And you can still find them used on eBay for under $1,000. And I'm going to explain why that's so important. At the end of the year, you have the patient come in with their molds, and you read the base curves on the radioscope. So instead of a 750 like you ordered, it's now a 740. Now, you do your overrefraction over the naked eye, and you find that the patient needs another half diopter. Is it because the mold steepened, or because their eyes changed? Without a radioscope, you can't tell that. And really, unless that patient is having issues, there is no reason to routinely wash them out. No patient, no parent wants to go through a washout process. And in the SMART study that we did for Euclid, we defined a washout as 2 back-to-back visits with virtually the same Ks, refraction, and topography. So the fastest one I ever had was 11 days, and typically they were closer to a month. And if you have a patient that's on Ortho-K for a lot longer, a washout can take longer. So the inconvenience of a washout is only when you need to do it, and that's when nothing you're doing is making sense. Then there's some missing component that you just don't know about, and that's where you sometimes have to start that patient over. With my registry of patients, we're probably washing out 1 to 2 patients at any given time, but that's based on hundreds and hundreds of people all at once as well. So routine washouts, just because it's a year, I would definitely avoid that.
Yeah, same. So we have a question for Euclid lenses. What's the highest you're able to correct vision acuity down to? Is it possible to correct a -8, -1 SIL with normal Ks? So Euclid lenses are approved for myopia up to -5 with 1.5 diopters of with the rule astigmatism and 3/4 of the rule, or 3/4 of astigmatism against the rule. So this patient is probably outside our range of capabilities. If you have a specific patient, I strongly suggest that you contact our consultation department. They're happy to run the cases for you. They're going to be very blunt and honest with you about whether they feel like you're going to be able to achieve good results with that patient. Now, if you did have a patient that's a -8, -1 SIL, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't do orthokeratology on this patient. They're still going to get excellent myopia management. They just may need to wear a pair of glasses over the top of this. And they'd still get excellent benefits from the myopia management. So again, those patients that are kind of outside of our traditional ranges, again, our consultation department is absolutely amazing. They would love to tell you what your options are.
Good point.
And then one of the last questions is really just about getting copies of forms. Again, please go to our links in Calendly, and we will get that stuff set up for you. All right, and then I think that's it. Any other little pearls or tidbits that you wanted to share, Dr. Gerowitz?
Um, no, I think they've got the best of me today. We'll be having another one of these webinars
Soon.
little
Yeah.
next quarter sometime,
Yeah.
or just after summer vacation's over, and then I'll dump my brain out onto you guys again.
Well, again, I just can't thank you enough for doing these with me. I love hearing all of your best practices and pearls. They're so insightful. You have so many great points. So really, truly, thanks on behalf of everybody that joined us tonight. This was one of our most popular webinars. I'm still surprised by the amount of people that have logged on and registered for it. So again, just thank you for being here with us and for sharing all of your knowledge. We just really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you all.
Y'all have a great night. Thank you so much.